questioned a few things in life. It wasn't my finest hour. He doesn't chuck the ball.
You don't think?
No, of course not. We're coming. We're going to bring it home. Basically it. No questions.
Backyard Cricket England is now in partnership with Telsa Media, a digital marketing agency with offices both at home in the UK and abroad. For all your digital business needs, call 0203 322 3098, email hello@telsamedia.com or visit www.telsamedia.com. Backyard Cricket England, now proudly sponsored by Telsa Media.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the Backyard Cricket England Get to Know podcast, where we will be getting to know all the members of the 2023 Ashes campaign in Australia, the world first Backyard Ashes campaign. And for my special guest today, we're going to be getting to know a player I've known for a very, very long time. Initially represented Addiscombe as a youth player before moving on to Beckenham Cricket Club, where he spent 7 long and successful years. He now plays for local Croydon-based club Woodside Green, where after a few early sporadic appearances, he made a strong return in the 2020 season where he was top wicket taker in his first full campaign. He's now taken 40 wickets for the club with an incredible best of 5 for none, and that's something we'll talk about later on in the video. He was also a member of the 2021 Invincibles campaign where the team went unbeaten through the whole summer. In backyard cricket, he's been one of the most reliable and successful players we've had. 7 test matches in all, only 9 wickets, but one of the lowest economy rates at just 3 and over. His best with the bat, 40, and with the ball, 3 for 14. He was on the Alex's 11 winning side in 2020 and 2021, but this year in 2022 played with his close friend Yusuf Sharif on the South 11, where unfortunately they weren't able to record a series win. Ladies and gentlemen, it is my pleasure to introduce a good friend of mine and somebody I'm delighted to have on the podcast. It's James Maguire. Jimmy, thank you very, very much for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
Oh, where is it? It's out. Well, out of nowhere, they've got the breakthrough.
Maguire's not pouring over and that'll be the end of the innings.
You did well.
Oh, he's nailed that. Well, this is a sign that James Maguire might be opening up now. So we'll start on that then. We'll go back to the very, very roots for you. Just tell us a little bit about how you got into the game. Was it a family-inspired thing? Was it something from the TV or friends? Just tell us a little bit about how cricket appealed to you and how you first got into it.
I mean, yeah, it was kind of a family thing. Older brother played cricket, which I'm sure we'll get into.
I'm sure we will discuss that at some point.
Older brother later. And then my dad's, and then this was our local club, only about 5 minutes away from our house. So we both started coming down playing here from probably the age of, I started playing here from the age of about 6 or 7.
So very, very young. It's a very early introduction in the game. And you mentioned here, just for the viewers at home who don't know, we are currently at Addiscombe Cricket Club, which obviously, like we said, is Jimmy's first club in the game.
Yes,
what are your memories of those first few years? From 7, you played here up until about 11, 12.
Yep.
What are your memories of those games? Do you remember really enjoying it, or was it just a hobby? Do you remember being particularly good at all for your age? What kind of things do you remember from those days?
It was kind of a hobby. I more started getting into it at secondary school, like properly. Started enjoying it a lot more, and then after I left here, obviously going off to Beckenham, and then that's when I really started to.
So Beckenham was the one that really sort of inspired that love of the game for you, more than just a part-time interest.
Yeah, definitely. And then, well, I mean, it got to the point of me doing coaching as well. So I was coaching.
And coaching the game as well?
Yeah.
Oh, fantastic.
I was running the under 15 team at 18.
Successful?
Yeah, they won the league.
Oh, terrific. Well, there we go. We have another champion in our midst in Backyard Cricket England, the world-class coach who will be coaching the Australia team. Are we? Before we go, maybe? We'll see. So just tell us a little bit about your childhood then. Were you obviously moving on to Beckenham? What other sports are part of your life? I know you're a football fan. Did you play at all? Or was cricket really the one for you in those teenage years?
Cricket was really more the one for me. I dabbled in a little bit of rugby, but not too much, and played a little bit of football. That was more hobby as well. Golf I got into. My dad except I kept trying to hit the ball like a cricket ball. So I kept
I
slicing
think
it.
that's something a lot of cricket players have. I
Yeah.
found that I'm not a big golfer, but you do find you end up playing like cover drives,
Yeah.
like long off kind of thing.
Yeah.
So tell us about your family then, because you mentioned a couple of times there, obviously your brother Rob, your dad you mentioned was a big interest for you. Cricket is obviously a big family thing, and your mum is involved at Addiscombe as well
Yes.
in terms of the lunches and just generally around the club as well. It's really a family sort of culture for you within the game, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely. My mum used to take me to the coaching sessions. Dad was coaching here at Addiscombe when I was playing in my age group.
So would that be what inspired you to do your coaching? Would it be from
Yeah.
watching your dad do it?
A little bit of that, and as well, especially at Beckenham, they had quite a big youth
Yeah.
group. So they on a Sunday they were doing about 120, 140 kids.
Oh right, so,
Yeah, so on a Sunday morning, yeah.
So any coach is welcome then. So
Yeah.
they even stick with you.
Yeah, no.
Jesus. And I guess we have to talk about, we might as well get this out of the way early. Your brother.
Yes.
Now,
Yeah.
Rob Maguire, for those who don't know, obviously Jimmy is the younger brother. Is it 2 years?
3 years.
3 years younger than Rob Maguire, who's obviously a very prominent backyard player as well. Just tell us a little bit, we're not going to pry into your sort of personal family life, but tell us a little bit about your relationship with Rob in a cricketing sense, because you've obviously shared clubs with him quite a bit over the years in backyard. What is it like sharing a field with him and watching him be really successful, watching him not be so successful at times? How is that dynamic between the pair of you within the game?
It's a bit of to and fro between us, but it's quite nice because everybody knows my brother, so they know how easily he gets wound up. So
Yeah, we
they're
do.
always on my side.
Oh,
So
yeah.
that makes it way easier to play cricket with him.
I have to say, winding Rob up is perhaps a better feeling than scoring 100.
Yeah.
It is the best feeling in the game, isn't it?
Yeah.
So how is that? Because obviously we mentioned, we know with Rob, he has been very successful, and in the backyard game we've seen him get 100, a big 100, he's taken lots of wickets. Your role in the teams you play in is generally a little more subtle than Rob and a little more understated, probably more of
Yeah.
a team player, less of a strike bowler.
Yeah.
Is that difficult for you at times when you do sort of the hard work and the more thinking type of bowling, and then you see Rob clean up all the wickets, get all the glory? Is that something you enjoy for him, or is it something that can be difficult at times? How is that for you?
I mean, sometimes it is a bit annoying, like bowling at one end and Rob just sort of cleaning up at the other, and I mean, there's not much you can really do about it. It's
No, and I guess if you're playing in a winning team, it makes it a lot easier.
if you win, it makes it a hell of a lot easier. So it's not too bad. I mean, that was the same sort of role I've had when I've played for most teams. Just sort of bowl. I usually keep my economy quite low in most games.
Yeah, it's interesting.
There's the odd game which, yes, I do get pumped around a little bit, but
But it is interesting you say that that's always been your role, because that is something I wanted to ask about. We'll go back to Beckenham. Now, in the whole time I've known you for Woodside, you have always been very steady, reliable, on a length, bit of nibble off the seam both ways, bit of swing both ways, very, very consistent. Has that always been the case?
yeah, pretty much through even school and Beckenham. I was always sort of first change. So Yusuf used to open the bowling for school.
Yeah, so obviously Yusuf Sharif, another
Yusuf
backyard
Sharif,
player
yeah.
who's someone you know for a long time.
Yeah, I've known Sharif Yusuf since we were 11, 12.
Yeah.
We both played at Addiscombe for 1 year with each other, and then I left and he left as well. But that was his role was opening the bowling and trying to get the wickets, and then I kept the economy down during the game.
See, the reason I ask that is because it is interesting, from a young age, if that's always been your role in the team, I think that speaks to quite a high level of self-awareness and maturity at a young age. Because most kids who play and bowl, you know, they want to be the fastest bowler, knock the stumps over, take all the wickets, and everyone wants to be the glory boy as a kid. But for you, from an early age, you already had the self-awareness to sort of do the job that the team required.
Yeah, I wasn't exactly the most athletic kid, so I knew I wouldn't exactly be running in and bowling down as quick as possible, and
So was it something you
knocking
thought
over
about,
the
say at
stumps.
the age of sort of 12, 13, was that something you were consciously aware of? I need to be more of a stock skillful bowler rather than pace and aggression. Is that something you actively thought of, or did it just happen that way?
What I was being coached was to get it in the right areas.
Yeah.
Because of my sort of size and the pace that I had was very much that if you get it in the right areas, the ball will do more of the work. So I mean that was again the help from Beckenham. They sort of started drumming that into my bowling at sort of 13, 14. Don't get me wrong, of course I wanted to take loads of wickets.
No, yeah, I mean obviously everyone does. But... So in terms of that then, it would be a Beckenham-inspired thing rather than, were there any bowlers in the real world, in Test cricket or anything like that made you want to bowl like that and you took tips off, or was it more just from Beckenham kind of
I'd
thing?
say it's more just from Beckenham.
Just from that. So
yeah,
if I asked you then who your sort of cricketing heroes were as a kid, would there be many of those kind of line and length bowlers? Who were your sort of big inspirations or idols as a kid within the game, if you had any?
I mean, being English, of course, Jimmy Anderson.
Yeah.
I mean, he's not exactly the bowler that I'd ever aspired to be, because
who can be like that?
Exactly. But I mean, there's few different players. You look at some of the great bowlers. You look at some of the greater bowlers that England have had. You look at Broad, Anderson, even people. Somebody who I really liked when he bowled was actually Paul Collingwood.
Collie, yeah.
He was a pretty decent bowler.
I mean, you might be the first person who ever does one of these podcasts with us and says Collingwood is a bowler.
I mean, obviously,
in one day cricket, particularly.
One day in T20.
It is a fair shout.
He was not a ground bowler, and I mean, not exactly a Test match cricketer. So,
but there's a one-day player as well.
Cricket that I play is either going to be one day or T20. So him, I mean, there's bowlers that you sort of watch for England who've been pretty decent. Ravi Bopara.
Bopara, yeah, sort of medium pace.
Exactly, medium pacer, decent bowler.
I'm thinking Luke Wright as well when he was in the team.
Yeah.
Max Geranos maybe. I think he's probably a little bit quicker, but
even people like nowadays, like Sam Curran's not exactly the quickest bowler in the world.
Yeah, but very skillful.
Yeah.
Yeah. Obviously that left arm angle's a little bit different from yourself. But moving into the adult game then, when you sort of get to your early 20s, you joined Woodside Green. You made your debut for them in 2012.
Yeah.
Played only a handful of games across the next few seasons, and then just in those days, what was that like? What do you remember of those first impression at Woodside? Yeah, those first few games. You played, I think, something like 6 or 7 games over a 3-year period.
Yeah.
And I presume brought in by Rob.
Yeah, brought in by Rob. Either when I didn't have a Sunday game.
So who were you playing for? Was that still Beckenham?
So at 2012, I was playing. 2012, I was playing at Beckenham.
It was still Beckenham.
Yeah, so that was it was either when they didn't have a Sunday game on, or when I was just sort of ended up being available last minute.
Yeah.
And then sort of came in, and then more towards this. Now me coming back in 2020.
Yeah, so when you came back in 2020, just to check then, where had you been for those 6 years? I know obviously, for those who don't know, Jimmy is a very, very prominent chef in is it 4-star or 5-star hotel?
4-star.
4-star hotel. Yeah. And you work a lot of hours, including a lot of Sundays.
Yeah.
Those 6 years where you were away between 2014 and 2020, were you still playing for anyone else, or was that just a 6-year absence from cricket entirely?
I maybe played... I probably played a bit more cricket in 2015 and 2016 for Beckenham, but then it got to 2017, and between 2017 and 2020 I think I played about 3 games.
So it was really just almost a break from the game. Was that because of work commitments primarily, or was there maybe a lack of interest as well, or was it just purely because of work?
And misses as well.
And misses as well, yeah.
So working all them hours and then getting a Sunday off, it wasn't the best excuse to go. Yeah, I'm not.
That's fair enough.
So even because I work most weekends, when I do get a weekend off and she had weekends off, didn't really get an excuse.
So it wasn't really for a lack of love for the game.
No.
Yeah, because you then came back in 2020, and it was like a complete transformation.
Yep.
as a bowler, I felt you'd put on a little bit of a yard of pace. Obviously, it had been 6 years since we'd seen you play, but I felt you came back quicker. And you finished that season as top wicket taker. You actually got a run of availability, which is rare for you to get a run of games in a row. Top wicket taker, that was the shortened year after COVID. We didn't play until July. And then only played about 10 or 12 games in total. Well, you played most of them, finished top of the wickets. How was that for you to get a run of games and to be successful? And
I mean, that was quite nice, and that is one of the main reasons why I wanted to carry on playing into 2021 and 2022. And then this year as well.
It's worth remembering you were successful and top wicket taker, but in a losing team. It wasn't a good season for Woodside that year.
No. It was it wasn't great. We just.
But when other bowlers were struggling, you came back after sort of a few years away. Getting that message straight away, yeah. It was adding the wicket taking edge, because we've always known with you very reliable, very skillful, but maybe whether you had the cutting edge to take the wickets.
Yeah.
And you came back after a few years away, and that seemed to be there. And then we rolled into 2021.
Yeah.
And this was obviously for Woodside Green a very famous, the best campaign the club's ever had, unbeaten across 22 matches. It was a big thing for the club. Again, you barely played the first half of the season, I think maybe 3 or 4 sporadic games, mixed results. But then you got a run of games in at the end of the season, and it was just remarkable the way you went. Just to give some numbers on that, 3 games in a row, you found yourself on a hat-trick.
Yeah.
You weren't actually able to take the hat-trick in any of them, but still 2 and 2 balls, 3 games in a row isn't done very often.
No.
And then we have to talk about the Chiddingly game.
Yeah.
Now this was probably your finest hour as a player, we would have to say. Yeah. So to give a bit of context for those who obviously don't know, Woodside, there were 3 games to go in the season and everybody was talking about going unbeaten, could we do it? Only 3 games left. And we go down to Chiddingly and they were a very good side. And we posted 251.
Yeah.
After 16 overs of the reply, they were 130 for none.
Yeah.
And their openers was just carnage. Rob Maguire was getting smacked everywhere. Dan Mears, another bowler, was getting sent around the ground. Jake Butler, who we know as well, all going in the trees.
Yeah.
With these 2 openers. And then you come on. 14 balls you bowled.
Yeah.
You come on at 130 for none after 16 overs. And within 5 overs of you coming on, the game was finished. Finished. And you finished with 2.2 overs, 2 maidens, 5 for none.
Yeah.
Just tell us what you remember from that day.
Yeah, I remember the openers just absolutely tonking it round, and then I remember my first wicket. That was Was it a bit of a long? I can't remember. Was your first wicket caught cutting?
No,
it was caught at mid off.
Mid off, yeah.
Caught at mid off. Because I bowled a really shocking ball.
Yeah, was it a bit of a half tracker?
Yeah, it was a bit of a half tracker, and the guy toe ended it.
Was that your first ball? The first ball?
Second ball, I think. Second ball, I think. Yeah.
And then from there, it just. Did you know when you came on to bowl that spell, and as that sort of first over was unfolding, did you feel like, oh, something's going to happen today? Did you have that? No. They talk about Stuart Broad getting on his little runs and them spells, and knees are pumping, he can feel it. Did you feel like that? Or?
I mean, after probably like my third wicket, I was like, oh, okay, cool. It looks like it's going alright for me today.
A 3 for none. It's coming alright.
You're catching slips.
Yes, I had one off you, didn't I?
You had a pretty good one off me as well.
Yeah, that's right. I think that was the second ball when you took 2 in a row.
Yeah, it was diving off in slips.
And I think where we mentioned you 3 weeks in a row were on a hat trick, I think this was the one where you came closest. From memory, I don't think you missed the stumps
I missed the stumps by
that, wasn't it? Yeah, I remember standing the slip. It was really margins, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Did that bother you at all, or is it them hat tricks, them 3 in a row where you weren't able to get them? Does that bother you at all? Is that something you were annoyed about, not getting them, or is it kind of just one of them?
I mean, any bowler's going to be a little bit annoyed that they.
So it was a little bit.
I mean, of course, but I still ended it with 5 wickets.
Yeah, and 5 for none as well. Literally perfect figures.
Yeah.
How did you reflect on that at the time? At the end of that day, when you went home and you get a moment to yourself, are you the type of character who sort of takes a moment at home before you go to bed and just thinks, wow, that was something today? Or is it more just, no, forget it, move on, done, work tomorrow, you know? Did you give yourself a moment to reflect on that game?
I was just glad that I got way better figures than Rob.
I didn't write down. I should have written down what Rob's figures were. I can't remember what they were, but they weren't flattering. Because of them 2 openers. The 2 openers were very good.
Yeah, they were.
Did you get both of them, or did I have a feeling?
No, I got one, and then I believe Alvin
got one at the other end.
Alvin got the other one.
And we have to mention as well, we've said this in a few of the podcasts that we filmed already, and I'm sure I'll speak for you when I say this as well. Alvin Safi has not been very well at the moment. Just want to take a moment to pass on my best wishes to him and his family.
Yes, of course.
He's obviously a lovely kid and a fantastic
he's a great kid.
Obviously on behalf of him and his family, we hope it all goes well.
Yeah, I really do.
So that season, that was 3 games to go, that Shillinglee game, and we did end up pulling off the Invincibles run. You took key wickets in a game at Morden as well after that, and then I can't remember what the second, was it Chobham? You were involved the second to last game. After you've taken 5 for none, the very next week,
the run chase.
It's your batting that comes into play here.
It's a run chase with Alvin as well.
With Alvin.
Me and Alvin, I remember that.
I can't remember the exact scenario, but it was something like you were batting number 10, and we only had Jake Butler below you.
Yeah.
And when you came in, Alvin was there on about 15, 20, and I think, what did you guys need? Maybe another 20, was it? Or?
Yeah, I think it was like 20 or 30, and I just kept telling Alvin, just listen to me, and at the end of the over, you hit the ball and you run.
Yeah, so it was very much, you're dealing with it, I'm going to just block, or were you thinking?
Yeah, pretty much. I took it very much.
What did you score? You did score a few, didn't you?
I scored, I think 8, but I took very much of a Jack Leach approach to it.
Yes, it was more, but obviously with Alvin, he's such a gifted player. It's a sensible way of doing it. And again, when we mentioned earlier, that sort of self-awareness we were speaking about, it sounds like that's sort of the theme throughout your cricket, knowing, again, my job here is to stay in with Alvin, rather than I'm going to be the glory boy, let me hit the boundaries kind of thing.
Oh, yeah.
So it sounds like kind of self-awareness runs through a lot of your game. And
some of the time when I bat, I get a bit over enthusiastic.
It depends on the scenario.
It does depend on the scenario. I mean, if I come in and we're batting first, and we've got maybe an over left to go.
Oh, of
course. Just go for it. If it's a run chase, I'm a bit different. It depends on who I'm batting with.
It is the thing. This is something I've spoken about with Ricky Borrett in the past as well. Ricky's obviously been in my team for all the backyard games. This is with backyard I'm talking here, and it's something me and Ricky have spoken about when constructing teams and plans for a series. We know with you, across a series or across a season in club cricket, 9 weeks out of 10, you're not going to get any runs. But the 1 week where we really need somebody to deliver, that's when you tend, that run chase at Chobham, there was a backyard game, the first game of 2021 when we were 70 for 7 and all in the mess, and you and Ricky put on 70 odd and won that game.
Yeah, I think maybe it was like 10 or...
Yeah, not many, but when it matters, you were there.
Yeah.
And I think there was another game in that series.
I mean, there was one with me and Yusuf.
Was it Yusuf?
Me and Yusuf in the last
one. That's it this year, yes,
against you guys. And
it seems
we lost the game, but I think I put on...
But
I got like 25 or 30, and Yusuf ended up
50 odd at the other end.
Yusuf ended up getting like 50 odd at the other end.
And I remember in the captain, that was the second test of this year, and I remember as a captain for that, very frustrating.
Yeah.
Very, very aggravating. And like you say, in the end it wasn't quite enough, we ended up winning. But again, is it something with your batting? Do you need a big moment to really inspire you to take it seriously? How do you explain the fact that most weeks you tend not to score heavily, but then when you're really, really needed, you tend to deliver? Do you just need a tense game to really get into it when you're batting? What do you put that down to?
I mean, maybe, but I just...
Do they bring out something different in you, those games? Do you feel different at the crease? Is it kind of I'm going to do the job I need to do here?
I try and come in and be like, I need to help get the job done.
It does seem to bring something out.
Look, I don't want to lose, so...
Yeah, exactly.
Nobody wants to lose. So, I mean, if I can go out there and try and win, then I can go out there and try and win.
Yeah, and it seems like with the batting, it really brings something out in you, that competitive streak, perhaps.
Yeah. I mean, that's probably, again, down to having an older brother who...
Literally about to ask that. Does that come from a sibling rivalry? Is that what that is? Yeah. How was the sibling rivalry growing up with you and Rob in cricket or football, if you played it, rugby, you mentioned, other games?
So...
Is that always
it was more... It was always Rob at with everything, and always.
Would you say across sports, Rob is the more naturally gifted of the two of you? Would you say, or is that not fair? Maybe.
I mean,
Would you say you're more the thinking sportsman and Rob's more the athletic sportsman? Is that a fair comment?
Yes and no. I'd say there's definitely things Robert is gifted at. Cricket, I would say he's more gifted at than me, but
he's certainly got more pace.
Yes, and again, he's probably a bit better with the bat.
Well, I mean, he's got a better record, but I don't think there's too much difference in technique. I don't know if that's maybe, application, or maybe he's had more opportunities or coaching or whatever that could be, but...
I'm not... To be honest, I don't think there's that much difference between me and Rob about how we want to play the game. I just feel that there's definitely... He's just... the way he bowls, the way he bats, probably he just gets a bit more out of it than me.
Do you possibly think a part of that is because where we mentioned, obviously, with you with work and misses in the he's just played a lot more cricket than you.
He definitely played a lot more
that.
consistently. He's played Saturday cricket, Sunday cricket.
Yeah, he does barely misses a week, doesn't he? Whereas for you,
he's always playing. So for me, I know I don't play every single week, and whenever I can play, I like to play.
Yeah, and obviously we know what your role is, and it's just as important. A team full of Robs wouldn't win you a game or a series. You need that variety, and the role you do is just as important in its own way, even if it's not as spectacular.
Yeah.
So we move on to backyard cricket.
Yep.
Now the season started in 2020, but before that, 2019 was when the planning started in a more serious sense between myself and Ricky to get this Australia trip off the ground. What do you remember about that? I know you were one of the first people we asked about that. What do you remember when you first... Did you already know about WCG and the Australians before we asked you?
No,
so we were the ones to introduce you.
You introduced me to it,
and what were your feelings about it then? Did you go home and watch a few videos?
I did watch a few videos.
What was your early impression of whether you wanted to come, what you thought of it, that type of cricket? Just tell us a little bit about those early days when you were first discovering it.
I mean, I will say the concept and the whole atmosphere around it, I think is brilliant. Like
in Australia.
In Australia, they've got quite a big thing about backyard cricket. I mean, I went over to Australia for
of course
month.
You've been there,
and I've spoken to a couple of people about backyard cricket. Oh yeah, we play backyard cricket and stuff like that.
Because of the space out there and the weather, they've all got backyards. It's a bit tougher here when you live on top of each other.
Obviously, the Australian one is a lot bigger.
Yeah.
And the backyard cricket that they have on their YouTube channel is obviously...
It is fantastic, isn't it?
Well, it's fantastic, and it's a hell of a lot bigger than what we've got at the moment.
Yes, yeah.
But I'm excited to play over there.
And was that always the case? So when we first pitched this idea to you, sort of 2019, early 2020, were you sold on wanting to come immediately, or was that kind of, I'm not sure if it's for me, or?
I was sold on wanting to come immediately because I wanted to go over to Australia anyway. I was looking at moving to Australia in 2020.
Yeah, obviously the pandemic.
But the pandemic hit and everything, so I then didn't. And now coming around to this year, I'm moving there in September.
And that's all arranged and sorted, yeah?
Yep.
So you will maybe be our little scout for a month before we go. Find some week, maybe decap a few of them before we go, or...
Find out where they live.
Yeah, exactly. Tear gas is cheaper than you'd think, mate, honestly. So yeah, obviously going back to 2020, that first series, so it sounds like you were sort of quite excited by the concept initially.
Yeah.
And then in 2020 we launched our first series to try and get this off the ground so that we can go out there with a bit of practice and a bit of a name for ourselves. What do you remember about that first series? Well, obviously ours is a lot different. We have to do it indoors because of the weather and the time of year, and we don't have maybe the equipment, the funding that the Aussies have. So it's a bit different for us, a bit more basic in that initial first year.
Yeah.
What were your impressions of that series? Not so much with the actual game, we'll come to the actual cricket in a moment, but just the general setup, the sort of the venues, the way we did it, all the way it was all arranged. What do you remember about that first series and your impressions of it?
I thought it went well, the first series. There was obviously some kinks we had to sort out.
Yeah.
Like
which was natural.
You're gonna see them problems. But I thought it did go pretty well. It's a lot harder than people think it is.
Oh, it is, especially as a batsman, I think, as well. But the bowling, everyone thinks as a bowler, you just lob it down there and it swings all over the place, you get loads of wickets. It's not that easy, is it?
We've had some first teamers. First teamers come into the game and they've been cleaned up.
And struggled
because they haven't been able to hit the ball.
And with the ball as well, they've struggled as well. I think it's underrated that it's difficult to bat, obviously, but it's difficult to bowl.
Like a good swing bowler can swing it about that much.
But you don't know where it's going to go.
You don't know where it's going to go.
So that control, and how do you remember then? We'll move on to the game itself. How do you remember adapting to it? Do you remember getting off to a fast start and feeling really at home with it? Was it a bit slower for you? Just tell us a little bit about your first series and how you felt you did.
I thought the ball I did pretty well. Batting wise, it's hard with the amount of swing.
Very tough.
It wasn't. I mean, we didn't exactly have high scoring games, did we?
No, not in that first year, not really.
Because everybody sort of struggled with the bat, even
and the pace as well. It's not just the swing; it's the fact that the pitch is only 13 yards.
Even some of the main bowlers, main batsmen, sorry, like Ricky, yourself. You tried with the bat, and then you could get out to. You guys could get out to like Crowder or something like that.
Yeah, I remember personally, I had an awful series. Really difficult to adjust to it.
And that's no diss on Crowder. I mean,
it's obviously
not a bowler.
It plays with your head, and I found I really struggled in that first series.
Yeah.
And it sounds like you were obviously a little happier with the ball.
Yes.
Went well, and you were obviously on the winning team, which helps.
Yeah.
So how were you feeling going into the second series in 2021? You were on my team again.
Yep.
Were you feeling going into that series really confident, or still a little bit, I'm not quite used to this? What were you sort of thinking going into that?
Definitely a lot more confident. It's still hard with the bat, but I think that's a season I got the 40, wasn't it?
Yes, in the third game. That was on the one that was miles away, wasn't it, down in Hampshire?
Yeah.
Was that the one where Rob got 100?
I think so.
That game?
Yeah.
And how did you find it then when we started off? Because this is an interesting thing that I wanted to speak to you about. And again, it comes back to what we're saying about self-awareness and knowing your job in the team. And you were on my team in that series. And I had a very specific plan for you, which the way I used you was designed around the fact that you weren't going to get me many wickets.
No.
And I knew that, and I wasn't bothered by that in the slightest. That wasn't what I was asking you to do. And the first two test matches in that series, we won them both. You took the sum total of 0 wickets, but you went at less than 3 and over. And what I think is really crucial on the way I used you as a captain, you bowled half your overs in those 2 test matches. The very next over, the next bowler came on and took a wicket.
Yep.
And that was your big strat. Half your overs, which is a fair amount across 4 innings in 2 games. You come on the bowl, you do what I ask you to do, and you set the wicket up for your teammates. And how did you find that role? Because obviously we mentioned earlier every bowler wants to take wickets and things, but did you find that annoying that you weren't being asked to take wickets by your captain, or was it more pressure release knowing that there wasn't any pressure? How did you find that role?
You said I didn't have any pressure on me. It's just.
So it was something.
If I did take a wicket, then bonus.
So after them first 2 tests, you've not scored. Not taken any wickets, but you had that big innings we mentioned with Ricky in the first game that turned that game. And again, like we say, you were taking wickets for other people.
Yep.
Where was your head at after them 2 tests? Were you happy with how it had gone?
Yeah. I mean, if I can keep the score down.
Yeah,
it works pretty well.
Interesting when I think we did a tactical talking points on this and looked at it. It's amazing the amount of times where we would bring you on and say, right, I think Rob is going to get, as a captain, I was thinking, I think Rob is going to get this guy out and he's going to get him out bowling in with an in-swinger.
Yeah.
So I'm going to bring Jimmy on, ask you to bowl back of a length outswingers, pull him across his crease, create that gap, and then Rob comes in and takes the wicket through the gap. Was that a challenge you enjoyed?
Yeah. I mean, it was definitely something new that I.
Yeah, because you're asking him to be very selfless in a way.
Yeah.
Almost asking you to not do the main thing you want to do, which is take wickets.
Yeah.
But I thought you did that role brilliantly, not just in them 2 games, but across the whole series. And you did get some wickets as that series went on.
Yeah.
And we ended up winning that series pretty well.
Just the only thing I hear after that is, oh, how many wickets did you take?
Yeah,
from one certain person.
Yeah, one person who shall not be named, but we know who that is because we mentioned him about 20 times already today. But it is. I thought you did brilliantly in that series, despite the absence of wickets, and I was annoyed that you weren't on my team last year. But I understood why, because Yusuf being the captain, you were one of his first picks. You and him have known each other a very long time.
Yeah.
We touched on it a little bit earlier. Do you just want to tell us a little bit more about your relationship with Yusuf and how that's developed over the years and where you're at now with that relationship?
Me and Yusuf all good. After secondary school, we maybe messaged like a couple of times afterwards, but nothing really. And then I started getting back into cricket and just sort of saw who was on our cricket team at school, who was still sort of playing cricket, and then asked him if he was around on a Sunday to play for Woodside.
So was it you that brought him in? It was you?
Me.
So we've got you to thank for that.
Yeah, I brought Yusuf in, and I did like a little chat with him about how are you and whatever, and yeah, it's been 2 years.
2 or 3 years, yeah. I think he might have come back the same season you did, because he played the 2-day game. We had a 2-day game.
So I asked, that's the game I brought him back for. I said,
was that his first game?
I think so. I think it was the 2-day game. I said, are you interested in playing this? And I know how much he loves his cricket.
Oh yeah. He's very, very much big cricket guy, and Yusuf. So how was it for you then coming into that third series? You'd been on a winning team for 2 years on my team, and now you're moving over to Yusuf, new captain, new team. How was it? Was that something you were excited for, to play under your mate's team? How did you feel? Did you still want to be on the side that you've been on for the last few years? What was that like going into last year's series for you? How were you feeling going into that campaign?
Truthfully, after seeing some of his picks, he made some.
He made some beginner's decisions.
Yes.
Beginner's decisions.
He went for talent on a normal cricket pitch.
That's the thing, and I think that was something that also me and Dan both struggled with in the first year, because obviously we'd never played it before, and then the second year I thought that was our big advantage in the series, was that I picked backyard players. Dan's 11 in that second series probably would have beaten us in a club game.
Oh, massively.
But in a backyard game, we won that series comfortably. It's a different sport almost.
Dan's 11 in the second.
Yeah, that's
second season.
If we play 4 club games.
Oh,
we might have
won one.
Yeah, I mean, we have obviously some good players, but
because that's if you or Ricky came off, Rob got some wickets.
But you look at his team, and there were some very fine players in it, very fine.
I mean,
but backyard's a different game.
Yeah, so I feel that was Yusuf's beginner mistake.
Which is understandable.
It is understandable. He did have the opportunity to pick certain people, because you picked Ricky at the beginning, didn't you?
We won't say too much about the order in which selection was done to protect people's interest, but I will say Yusuf turned down some very handy players. He declined to pick some very, very good players.
Not saying so.
Not that the players he picked were bad.
No,
but again, it's like we say, good players in club cricket, it's a different thing. It's not to say that these players are bad or that they shouldn't be anything like that.
Absolutely not.
And going into that series, then, were you thinking it's going to be tough for us to win this, or were you thinking we're the favourites? We're going to win.
It's going to be tough.
You were feeling that straight away.
Well, being on your team the last 2 times.
Yeah.
I know exactly the way you think and plan stuff.
Yeah, the way we're going to approach it.
I mean, don't get me wrong, we gave it a good few games to...
It was. I felt 3 tests and it finished 3-0 to the North.
Yeah.
I don't think that was an entirely fair reflection of the series. I thought we were the better team and we deserved to win the series. I don't think 3-0 was perhaps... I think that was a little flattering.
Yeah. I
would say. But that first test, you didn't play.
No.
And you come into the series 1-0 down.
Yeah.
Now, that second test. This is the game where you came into it off about 2 hours sleep, a stonking hangover,
Yeah.
You were not in a good way. And you turned up, I can't remember what it was, something like half an hour late maybe.
45 minutes.
45 minutes. And at the situation you came in, your team was already out of all their wickets.
Yeah.
And
you
had
had
to come in. We had
to wait 15 minutes for me to actually get
the
there.
last wicket went down and we had to turn the cameras off and wait for you to turn up.
Yeah.
And when you turned up, hungover, not feeling so great, straight out to the middle. What are you thinking as you walk to the middle? And I think it was something like, was it 20 for, it was 5 or 6 aside, then you were something like 20 for 4. What were you thinking going out to the middle?
I questioned a few things in life. It wasn't my finest hour.
Now, would you like me to tell them, or would you like to tell them how that innings went for you?
I faced one ball, and then Alex decided to bring on Rob, thinking it would be a funny decision, and then I got bowled straight away.
It was a funny decision.
It was a funny decision for everybody else.
Could you see that ball? Obviously the booze goggles are still on. Could you see that ball when he bowled it out?
I could barely see it in the second innings. The first innings, I could see nothing.
That must be, you come in 45 minutes late, stocking hangover, and you get knocked over to Rob's first ball. That must have been a pretty low moment.
Yeah.
Or were you too hungover?
To be honest, I was pretty hungover, too hungover to care.
But what's interesting is after that, you went on to have a pretty fine game. You bowled very well in both innings. You put on that partnership with Yusuf in the second innings where you said you got 20-30, whatever it was. And even though obviously you mentioned you could barely see the ball even in the second innings, the rest of that game, you actually did pretty well.
Yeah, I didn't do too badly. I think I just needed to lie down for a little bit. That's what I did.
Is it that, or is it perhaps that you needed someone to smack you in the head? Because this is another thing. Now, you've got a lot of stick for this, and you've not had a chance to defend yourself. So I'm going to give you your moment here. I'm going to play, as the viewers watching this, we're going to put this ball over us talking so we can all see this. Do you want to talk us through the delivery where you gave up on it halfway through and you took one on the forehead? What on earth happened there? Can you defend yourself? Because you've had a lot of stick for this. What do you want to say about that?
One, it's a tennis ball. So I think my reaction would have been a bit different if it was a cricket ball. And two, I could barely see the ball.
What happened? Did you just give up on it, or did you just not see it? What happened?
I just sort of went forward a little bit and then realised, to be honest, I was pretty lazy to come back. I was pretty lazy to sort of come back, and I knew if I did come back, that if it glove or top of my bat, I'm going to get out. So in the tennis ball,
so you
put my head down a little bit.
You went for full Harry Maguire.
Yeah.
Boom.
Yeah, pretty much.
Did that help sharpen you up a little bit?
I think after that
I
I did get a couple of 4s and I got a 6 as well. So maybe potentially it was. To be honest, I didn't really think too much about it when I actually did it. I just knew that if I went for it, and then because I was being 13 yards, I was thinking he's going to bowl a bit fuller, and he didn't, and I just didn't come backwards. It was on Ricky, wasn't it?
It was Ricky, it was Ricky. And he gets, I would say with Rick, he's one of the shorter guys. He gets the bounce of a tall bowler, doesn't he? He gets the bounce of a tall bowler.
So I did misjudge it quite a bit because my bat was here and my head obviously hit it, but
yeah, it's one of them things.
It's one of them things. I mean, it'll be a good for all the memes and reels later.
It did give everyone a good laugh. Yeah. But we'll move on to something more positive, which is your bowling. And obviously you played in the third test as well. That again didn't go the team's way, you were beaten, but you again bowled well in that game. Now my impression from not just watching you but facing you in that series, the difference between you in 2021 on my team and then on Yusuf's team this year, I felt you put on a yard of pace. Is that something you felt? Because it felt to me you were quicker than you were in the first two series.
Yeah, I feel that in the backyard I'm able to maybe bowl a little bit quicker because it's less margin for error with how
But even I felt, even in the backyard from one year to the other, I don't feel you bowled as quick the year before as you did that year on Yusuf's team. I felt there was a real step up in your pace.
Yeah.
What do you put that down to? Was there a reason for that? Or? Been hitting the gym, perhaps?
Not too much, but I mean, I probably have put on a little bit of muscle and obviously working quite a lot. And
yeah, so it's just naturally built up because there certainly was that there. And you finished that series, coming out of that series, obviously we won't talk about how you felt about the team's performance because like we say, it was 3-0, it didn't go great. But for your own performance, how did you feel coming out of that series this year? Bear in mind that's the last series before we go to Australia. How are you feeling coming out of that series? Were you happy with how it gone?
I don't think I embarrassed myself.
Apart from when you got hit on the head.
Apart from when I got hit in the head.
And got out to your
brother. Yeah. But as an overall, yes, I probably could have done better, but I didn't do terribly.
No, not at all. I didn't think. I thought most people were very impressed. And coming into Australia, then, I mean, it's going to be amazing, isn't it? How are you feeling about this tour? What we're doing? What it's going to be like? Are there any nerves at the moment or excitement? What is this tour?
I'm really looking forward to it, and obviously. To be perfectly honest, if it actually goes well, I'm gonna try and speak to them and see if I can play a couple more backyard.
Yeah, because you'll be staying.
So I'll be staying there. I'll be staying and I'll be in Sydney.
And what will this mean to you? What does this trip mean to you? Is this something, because we've got obviously different characters in our team, I'm sure for some people it will be, it's just a holiday and a bit of fun, not too worried, and then for other people it will be the opposite, really serious, we've got to win, this is going to be amazing, it's all about winning. Where do you sit on it? What does this tour mean to you personally? What are your feelings about it, and what are you hoping to get from it?
Well, I think it'll be a bit of fun, I do.
Yeah.
I'm probably going to be working a little bit while you guys are out there as well. So for me, obviously working and doing everything, I'm going to have the time off to play the cricket.
Yeah, you'll be available for the games.
Be available for the games, obviously, but it'll be nice to. I mean, we don't really get much time, all of us together as a big group to go out and have quite a good time.
And what would it mean to you to win this series? Is that something you'd look back on as a little bit of a laugh, or is that something that would really mean something to you to come back with a winner's medal?
I mean, I want to come back winning, obviously.
Yeah,
I mean, who doesn't want to beat the Australians?
Yeah, especially with everything we've invested to get out there.
Of course.
And again, same for yourself as it is for all the rest of us. There's been a lot of sacrifices.
Yeah.
A lot of hard work, financial, social sacrifices, family sacrifices. Is there anyone who's helped you while you've got this opportunity? Is there anyone you want to thank? Anyone who's maybe helped make this happen for you that you want to shout out? Or
in what sense?
Well, anything. Has anyone... anything you want to say, basically. I mean, it's up to you, really.
I mean, obviously, you and Ricky and whatever, sorting it all out and setting it all up. Most of the time, Ricky taking me off to a lot of the games in the car. And then my mum for picking me up when I was absolutely steaming.
Oh yeah, she drove you to that game, didn't she? Yeah.
She had to stop for a little bit.
How was that for her?
She was like, why are you playing cricket today? You shouldn't be doing stuff.
Would you have played had it been a club game? Or is it because it was bad? So it still would have.
Yeah, of course. I've made the commitment.
Yeah, it's true. Yeah,
if I say yes, I say yes.
And for all the grief you got that day, we were grateful you came because the selection and availability was dreadful in that series, which is a shame. But
yeah, it was bad decisions the day before. I'm pretty sure it was a friend's birthday, and that's why it was very heavy. No, it was a leaving drinks from work. That's why it was so heavy.
What it was.
And yeah, I got back in at 4.
And how are you feeling about our Ashes team? Do we have a team we're taking out there that can win the Ashes?
Yeah, of course.
Yeah?
Definitely.
We're happy with our team. I think me and Ricky would echo that sentiment. We're very happy with the team we're taking out there. And obviously we've mentioned in the past, in this interview, we've mentioned a few times, Rob giving you grief and all this kind of stuff. What will it be like? Because Rob's not coming, and you come back with an Ashes medal, perhaps a Player of the Series award, who knows? Is that going to get Rob firmly in? Or are you going to be more humble about that?
I'll be a bit more humble about
You think so, yeah? Be the better man,
I
yeah?
think I'll annoy him more. Whichever way can annoy him more, I think that's the route I'm going to go with.
Excellent. Well, that's the way, isn't it? So we've only got sort of 10 minutes, 15 minutes left. So we're going to close, as we close all of these podcasts, I have asked you, for a bit of fun, what we're doing with every player, we're asking them to select their ultimate backyard 10 rather than 11, because it'll be 10 aside in Australia.
Yeah.
So the ultimate backyard 10, just to recap, the 2 rules that were given to you, you have to pick yourself, and you can only pick players who have appeared on a televised game on YouTube, so that those who don't know us personally will know who you're talking about. So have you got a 10 for me?
Yeah.
Alright, so in batting order then, let's start with your openers. Who is your first 2 on the list then?
Probably go with you.
I've made a few of these teams, more than I thought I would, to be fair.
I give it to Yusuf.
Yusuf as well, yeah?
Yusuf.
So, obviously again, not to go,
No.
because I'm in the team, but on a more serious point, other people who could have opened, I'm thinking of, say, Bijal Patel, Sam Dennis, there's others as well that I can't think of right now. Why those 2? Why me and Yusuf? Why not some of the other players we've mentioned? Do you want to just talk us through that?
Yusuf, because you know he'll get probably about 40. Never quite gets that 50, does he? But
40 every week.
40 every week, and he can't quite make that 50 mark.
He's the only person in the history of cricket who's averaged 40 without ever making a 50.
Yeah. And I'll give it to you. You might be boring as anything.
Ah, come on.
But you get the job done.
Occasionally.
And I'll give you that.
Occasionally.
It sometimes can be a bit slower, but
yeah,
job gets done.
I don't claim to be the Villiers. I know what my game is.
Yeah.
So me and Yusuf up the top then. Middle order, I think most of the podcasts we've filmed so far, people have found their 3, 4, 5 to be the easiest bit in terms of picking. Because there's so many standout names that you could pick. Who have you gone with in your middle order? Who's your 3, 4, 5?
Personally, Crowther.
Crowther's in at number 3?
Crowther's in at number
Crowther's
3.
at 3.
Rick at 4.
Rick at 4.
Number 5. To be honest, I'm probably going to go with Alvin.
Alvin in there, yeah. I mean, that's fair enough.
I'm probably going to go with Alvin. I mean, you watch what he did in the backyard series.
Unbelievable, wasn't it?
He's that game that he got 100 and
200.
He was 200. Wasn't
200
it?
it was, yeah.
Yeah, you can't.
Something else.
Can't deny that. Can't deny that talent.
He really is something, and we'll speak about the other 2, but let's stay with Alvin for a moment. Obviously the batting, that double 100, but as a bowler, what do you make of him as a bowler in backyard cricket?
That's why he's there at number 5, I think.
Because he is lightning.
He's lightning, but because of how quick he is, the ball bounces a bit too high.
He can sometimes be a little short. But he is capable of bowling the occasional, just unplayable.
Oh man, you know that once every 2 overs, he's gonna bowl. Yeah, unbelievable.
Something ridiculous. Would you say he's quicker than Rob? But they would obviously be our 2.
Yes.
You say Alvin, and that's an immediate outright. Yeah, definitely. And obviously the other 2 you mentioned, Ricky Borah at number 4, is that a bit of a no-brainer? Did you have to think about that one? Or that's straight in and out?
That was kind of standard.
I mean, we're not going to speak too much about Ricky because we have enough trouble fitting his head in the outfield as it is anyway. Yeah. So we'll maybe leave that one aside. But do you want to just give us a word on him quickly? Just a very quick word, and try not to flatter him too much, but just anything quick on Rick.
He doesn't chuck the ball.
You don't think?
No, of course not.
Alright, Crowther. Crowther at 3 is an interesting one. Obviously, I don't know how the rest of your team is going to pan out, but who else did you consider? Who were your other options? Anybody push him close for that role?
There are people like Sam as well.
Yeah.
I'm just trying to think of who was playing. Bijal, of course. Again, very good cricketers, but just Crowther seemed to be somebody who was being a bowler, somebody who's pain in the arse to get out.
He is. I find him very frustrating as a captain and a bowler to bowl at, because he's got that kind of very basic technique, and you feel like there's weaknesses you can get him, but he doesn't get out.
It was hard. It was hard. It was hard to get out.
And he picked it up quite quick, didn't he? Made a couple of really good innings in the first series.
Yeah, I mean that's mainly my reason why I'm picking him.
And very cool under pressure.
If you're going from other people's picking, they might pick somebody else who's a bit more of a flair batsman who will get you a load. For me, Crowther frustrates people.
He does. He really can do.
I know being a bowler, if you are asking me to frustrate people, he does the same for bowlers. He's the one that gets bowlers bowling the erratic.
So he's almost the batting equivalent of what you would do as a bowler.
He gets a bowler doing.
He can drive you to despair because he barely moves his feet and he just hangs that back. But he's leaving it on purpose. But they go past the edge. He's leaving.
He knows what he's doing.
Yeah, he knows. And it just drives you mental.
Yeah.
So he's in at 3. Before we discuss who else could have been in the team, we'll just see who you actually have gone with then. So we've got so far me, Yusuf, Crowther, Ricky, and Alvin. Number 6 and 7. Gets tough, doesn't it?
It does get a bit tough.
I found a lot of people have found doing this, the bowlers and the sort of all-rounders, the lower order is a lot harder to pick because there's so many options. So many good players.
You know who I have missed out, but I'm not disappointed that he's this low? Bevan.
It's one of the ones I wasn't going to bring that up until we heard who your 6 and 7 was, because Bevan West is another very gifted young player.
He's a very, very good cricketer, but I just feel that I can't put him. It's better to open with Yusuf and yourself.
No place for him in the middle order. Or is he your number 6? Sorry, Bevan's the number 6. Yeah.
Bevan's going to be the number 6. To be honest, it's a toss-up between him and Alvin to go 5 and 6.
Yeah.
Again, a very, very talented young cricketer.
And I'm not sure you played in the game actually. He made 100 in one of the games.
Yep.
Did you play in that game? In my personal opinion, not maybe in terms of context or the situation of the game or anything like that, but just in terms of pure batting, I would say that's the best innings we've had in backyard cricket so far.
Very good fielder as well.
And a gun, probably the best fielder.
Yeah.
Maybe along with Yusuf possibly, but
yeah.
Bevan is a gun fielder. So again, would you say that's a no-brainer? Did anyone push him close at number 6, or is that again, because I'm thinking Gurpal Singh is another one we've not mentioned.
Again, Gurps as well. It was just some of them innings that Bevan had.
Yeah,
It's just trying to fit him in, and then Crowther, I don't really want to put lower. I'd rather him
higher up. Yeah. So Bevan at 6. Who's your number 7?
So
we're down to the last 4 now. Getting tougher from here.
Might surprise you, but Foxy.
Elliot's in. Elliot's made the cut.
Yeah.
So I'll tell you what, we'll go through all your bowlers in, because then we'll have a better idea of who you've left out. So Elliot Fox is 7, and then obviously you have to be in it.
Yep.
What position are you in?
9.
You've got 9. So who's your 8 and 10?
Mears.
Mears is in.
Mears.
And Yunan. That's an excellent set of bowlers. Now I am noticing some omissions. Before we get to them, we'll talk about why you've picked the players you've picked. They deserve obviously their credit. So we'll go back to number 7, Elliot Fox. Maybe not the standout player, probably similar to yourself. Doesn't always take the glory moments in the game, but very versatile, very consistent. Why have you gone with Elliot?
Bowling wise, gets ball on the spot. If he needs to bowl in a certain area to get a batsman out, he will. Batting wise, he might not get load runs all the time, but when he does start scoring, he can really start scoring.
He's a good watch when he gets going. He's a lot of fun. So Elliot's in. Number 8 was Mears. I mean, there's not a lot you can say about Dan Mears, really. We know what a good player he is, and he's your captain in club cricket, so I dare say you were never going to say something too.
No, but I mean, you know what Dan can do with the
with backhand ball. Yeah, he's a very fine player. The only thing with Dan, he's maybe not taken a bucket load of wickets in backyard cricket. Still
He
bowled
doesn't go for many runs.
excellently. Yeah, again, I think he's got the best economy rate out of anybody, period.
Yeah.
And obviously a captain we know about. I'm not sure you actually played for him in backyard as a captain, but you've played for him in club cricket.
Yeah.
What do you make of him as a leader and as a player?
I mean, very good leader.
Yeah, obviously he led the Invincibles that we mentioned earlier. He led that team, and we all owe him for that. Would you say, was there any competition for his place, or was he a no-brainer? Was he always going to be in?
I think he was always going to be in.
He was always in. And then yourself at 9. Again, we mentioned that's the rule, you have to be in there.
Yeah.
Number 10, you've gone with Yunan.
I've gone with Yunan. Yunan, it was knowing playing with him and then listening to everybody else talk about, like I was listening to people like Yusuf talk about how frustrated he was. Because he was able to hide, big hands, he was able to hide the ball. And then when he'd run up to bowl, you didn't know which way it was going to go.
Yeah, and you know what? It is striking, I think, with Yunan, that when you talk to the bowlers, if you talk to some of the bowlers in backyard cricket and ask them about Yunan, he goes under the radar a little bit and they don't maybe think he's anything special. If you ask the batsman, you ask anyone who's faced him, Ricky, Yusuf, myself, anyone I've spoken to, they say he is up there with, he is as good as somebody else. He's as good as anyone in backyard cricket. Anyone who's faced him will tell you. He might, on a camera it maybe doesn't show, but he's very clever, very good bowler. Again, so we're going to go through the people you've left then. So you mentioned Yunan there, obviously rounds up your order.
Yeah.
Some of the other bowlers you could have had. Jake Butler. Do you want to tell us maybe why you've gone with Elliot, Dan, Yunan instead of Jake?
I mean, to be fair, that was probably my hardest decision.
Was that the toughest one to leave out?
It was between Jake and Yunan, really. I just feel that Yunan probably gives a little bit more with the bat.
Yeah. And Jake's probably more fun to watch with the bat.
Jake's way more fun to watch with the bat.
More fun than I'd argue anybody else with the bat.
I mean, he's also great out in the field, isn't he?
Oh, definitely. I mean, so character.
He's some person you don't want to be on the opposition against. Like
he's annoying. But he's some character.
He's great when he's on your team.
I'm thinking of other bowlers as well. Callum Letts, not played a load of games, but made a good impression.
Very, very good cricketer. And
also noticing no spinners in your team. Maybe Vamsi, Matar, Nav Saeed, another one as well. Not seeing any spinners in there.
I mean, I've got Elliot.
Elliot can bowl spin, of course.
Spin.
So are you picking Elliot as a spinner, or are you picking him as a sort of medium pace?
I probably want Elliot to bowl, if I need him to bowl a bit more spin.
Okay.
You, again, if you need to bowl.
Yeah, I mean, I guess the difference between me and Elliot is I've not bowled spin in backyard games.
Yeah.
Obviously in club games I have, but not in backyard.
It's just the pitches that we have aren't exactly fitted for spinners. Ball doesn't do as much. It's better
maybe probably more of a weapon in Australia where they've got the actual strip rather than obviously the indoor balls that we're using. So spin could be a weapon.
Spin could be a weapon.
I'm just trying to think of who else you might have. I'm thinking James Ramsey as well. He's only played one game, so I'm not sure, or 2 games. I'm not sure if you can pick him on that basis.
Rambo again, he's one of the people that.
Would you say, this is something I've asked a couple of people, out of all the backyard players in club cricket, would Rambo be the best?
Yes.
You think he's the best out of all of them in the club game?
Yes.
So it would be nice to get him back in for more.
Yeah.
But yeah, obviously you've not gone with him, not gone with Callum Letts as well, made a good impression. But you're happy with that team? Just to recap then, that's myself, Yusuf, Crowther, Ricky Borrett, it was Alvin Safir at 5, Bevan West at 6.
Yeah.
7 was Elliot.
Yeah.
That was Foxy. 8 was yourself.
Dan.
Oh no, 8 was Dan and you at 9.
Dan,
yeah. 8 was Dan Mears, you at 9, and number 10 was Ewan McGregor. That is a very fine team. That is a team I think would win an Ashes series, but it's not the team we're taking.
No.
We are taking a different looking team, and we are so excited about it. We have maybe a minute or a minute and a half left, so I'm just going to ask you to have a look down that camera lens and send your final message to the Aussies and the WCG before we go there later this year. What do you want to say to them?
We're coming. We're going to bring it home. That's basically it. No questions.
You heard it there first. You heard it there first. We are bringing it home. No questions asked. Jimmy Maguire, it has been a pleasure. Thank you very, very much for joining us. We appreciate your time. And that's all for the Get to Know podcast with James Maguire. Obviously, feel free if you've got any questions for Jimmy, please leave a comment below, like and subscribe and all that cobblers. In the meantime, we'll see you next time with another member of our Ashes winning team. That's all for now on Backyard Cricket England.